So I want to welcome Maylin Smith. How are you doing, Maylin?
I am great. Thank you for having me.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yes.
So, Maylin, obviously, with everything with workforce happening right now, specifically Job Corps, there are a lot of conversations going on social media, on LinkedIn. I feel like every day there is a new update. So, tell us a little bit about your experience with Job Corps, how long you've been doing it. Let's start there, Maylin.
Okay, thank you. The program has been in existence for 61 years. I've been in the program 20 plus years.
Maylin, Hope and I dove into this topic last week on the first episode because we were trying to process the numbers. There's a lot of numbers that came out with, I believe it was called the Transparency Report. And then there was a follow-up to those numbers. I believe they were on the Hill speaking about, well, some other factors that contributed to this. So the reasons that were cited for the potential closure of Job Corps were graduation rates were lower than expected. There were violent incidents, security issues. I'm sure all of these you heard. Can you take a couple minutes here to speak to some of these and perhaps provide the other perspective on some of these reasons for the potential suspension of the Job Corps contract?
Absolutely. So what I mentioned to you in our previous conversation, this information, it's inaccurate. So I will start with graduation rate. In that report, it says it's just 38.6%. Well, the data that they based on that report, that's during COVID. And you cannot discount the years before that, the performance of the program. So,
and can I just, on that 1 second, Maylin, if I remember correctly, because I remember during COVID, I did a little bit of virtual training for those campuses, and they were having to, this is a program where traditionally the students are on site receiving services one-on-one, and then all of a sudden they were asked to provide those virtually. It's just not how the program is packaged or what the expectations were of the student. And there were tons of programs that had to navigate that during COVID. When you say the numbers during COVID could be impacted, would that be part of the reason? Because how the model was set up, it was now asked to deliver a lot of these things virtually?
During COVID, as what you said, the program was not set up like that. And then when COVID hit, I would say here in Alaska, the connectivity is a big problem. And if we deliver training virtually, majority of the students here in Alaska Job Corps Center, they live outside of the road system. So there's no internet, or if there, it's very minimal. So how would you deliver that, right? So it would impact the outcome of the training. But historically, graduation rates of Job Corps have been above 60%. But they only focused on that period of time during COVID, which there's a lot of things that could impact that, and that is beyond our control. So that's one. Now, the cost. They claim that Job Corps cost as much as $155,000 per student. So the Job Corps cost is less than $50,000 per student, according to DOL's report. So this is an increase from a report during the first Trump administration, which indicated that the cost per student was $34,301. So the increase is due almost entirely to COVID. Why is that? So if you are going to spread the cost to that small group of number of students that we serve, of course, the cost per student will go up. And also another point is the cost per graduate is higher than the four-year college. So
can I ask, just for the viewer, so that the viewer understands and that I understand, because this is definitely not my area of expertise, there's a cost associated with running the campus. And if we're running that campus with a limited amount of students, then obviously the cost versus the students being served is going to be so much more expensive. Whereas if we're running at capacity or close to capacity, then the cost will drop dramatically, which would then reflect, hey, this is actually more cost effective to the economy than it hurts. Am I interpreting this correctly?
Correct, because the cost will be spread out to the actual number of students that we serve. That is correct.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this, Maylin, before we go. And I truly appreciate you, by the way, joining us and talking about something that I know has to be emotionally jarring and, quite frankly, really upsetting, considering a lot of our students might potentially be back into the communities without completing education or having housing or worse. So if we can, talk to me a little bit about the perspective or the pitch for people who say, look, there's a better way to do this. I don't know if my tax-paying dollars just go into allowing students to just live on site and maybe graduate. I don't know. What would you say to those people who are on the fence of the impact or importance of Job Corps in their communities?
Well, I would say that the program could use some reform. And it's a youth, it's 60 plus years. And of course, that we recognize that we could use some revisions of the models of the training programs that we offer. That I agree with that. But I think the program has impacted a lot of, and I think taxpayers' dollars are being used really productively in this program. The oversight of the program by DOL is just, I would say, a top notch. There is a constant oversight we have. There is a corporate review. There is a DOL review that is happening regularly. They look at through centers, looking at the report, visiting centers to make sure that everything is happening according to the contract that they laid out for the operators. The graduates that we produce, the success of the students out there who went through the program is a living proof of that. Remember that on average, when about 20% of our students across Job Corps centers, they are homeless and they are minors or they age out of the foster systems. So it's difficult where we are going to put them. Are we going to put them back on the street?
Wow.
That's right there. This is the life of these young adults who look at Job Corps as their last chance in life, the last stop. And with all this happening, where else they going to turn to? So it's so draining for all of us right now, but we have to continue for the sake of these young adults in our hands.
Let's end with your call to action of if people want to get involved, if people want to support Job Corps, what can they do? Where should they go?
So we are calling for everybody in the community, friends, employers, graduates, and especially our lawmakers. So if you can help us advocate to your congressional delegation, lawmakers right there, to advocate for the funding of the program after June 30, 2026. That's really the big thing right now, the big thing that could help save the program.
So call their elected officials, talk about their support for Job Corps, let them know why it's important to their community, essentially make your voices
be heard. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Maylin. Again, this is not an easy conversation to be had. I remember in my juvenile justice days, if all of a sudden they said, hey, this way that you're serving and you're helping others, now you can't. That would evoke a lot of action for me, too, to want to get involved. But it would be a tough conversation. That's why I thank you for coming in here, getting involved, letting your voice be heard, and giving people the other side and a perspective on how to get involved if they decide that is what they want to do.